Well, I might just be a humble southern lawyer, but I do declare.
Let me just reposition myself on my roid pillar and I'll get all comfortable.
You might be a redneck if you're sitting on a roid pillow.
I'm just going to keep
No,
the sling blade face. That's what I'll do for the rest of the zip.
oh, that's it.
Fred Tatum said his face hurt at the end of a day of filming. But anyway, we're getting off track already.
We got faces for radio, baby.
That's right.
Actually, I should just talk to myself. You are a very beautiful human being.
Oh, thank you, babe.
You're welcome, honey. Hey, guys, we're recording, and by guys, I just mean you and me.
For the moment, but soon.
We are Cinematic Suffering. Welcome back to another episode of Bits and Chunks, and we just both put our hands up at the same time, like it was pre-planned.
Synergy. It's astral projection.
It's becoming more fluent and all involved and spiritual as we do continue on this horror quest here.
That's right, as it does.
So I am Jason, and that is Clay over there. And we're just going to talk about some biddies and chunkies over the week or so since our last episode. What we've seen, what we may see, what I haven't seen that you may have seen. Who knows where this will lead us?
Yeah, that's right. It's an off the cuff. It's our most podcasty of our podcast endeavors, which I kind of like it because who knows what might happen. It might go totally off the rails, which is where the beauty happens.
Expletives start getting flung left and right. Bodily fluids spewed all around the room. It gets a little gross.
Yes, it does. Indeed. But yes, this is our horror movie podcast. And I don't know what I was pontificating about horror in general and the many things that I appreciate about it. And I don't know if we've tackled this subject before, but one thing I like about horror is that you find it when you find it. A lot of other, especially mainstream movies, are kind of topical. It's kind of like, well, why are we talking about whatever? Polka Man, that came out a month ago and we're on to something else. Horror is relevant when you come to it. Some of the language that the characters and actors use might be unfashionable in today's world. It might hit your ears wrong, but you discover a film like Cabin Fever if you hadn't seen it yet, and it's still the same classic that it is today that it was when it premiered.
Yeah, it's a good point that you see like the flash in the pans, and that goes for some of the more, I think some of the dumber horror movies. I immediately go to Boogeyman, the recent iteration, which was an entirely forgettable movie, which is all horrible for all the wrong reasons. And there's a certain. Some of these movies are just ageless, and some may not seem to age well. You can go back, you can have your rose tinted glasses and go back and say, oh, well, maybe this didn't hold up as well as it did back when I was younger. But I think you mentioned Cabin Fever, that there's some stuff in that movie that is totally bonkers and off the wall, and it still holds up. It's still fun to watch. There's like even Nightbreed, you're doing a retrospective on Nightbreed, working on that one, and that's one we both I think I had rose-colored glasses when I was thinking about it, and then I read your review of it, and then I was like, let me go back and rewatch it again, and I was just like, yeah, he's got some points going on here.
Well, no spoilers or anything, but yeah, we are working on a retrospective of Nightbreed, which is excuse me, it's taken me a minute because I don't know if you have all noticed, but we've got some specific artwork that we have in our thumbnails, and all that stuff is hand drawn. So we've got a little bit extra of that coming up for the retrospective on Clive Barker's Nightbreed, and it takes a little bit longer to put out. So we're working hard on that, and I know you're putting a lot of extra work in on the editing. So we work hard for y'all. That's what we're getting at.
So Clay, did you what have you seen lately? We kind of like bounced some movies back and forth to each other about what we've seen and what we haven't seen over the week.
Well, I watched, it's weird. I've been kind of movieless for a little bit. I did check out Viking Wolf. You had mentioned that one, so I wanted to check that out so we were on the same page, more or less. You had mentioned that you'd seen the Pope's Exorcist. I don't know if we've talked about that. We might have touched on it. People can either choose to endure another round of the Pope's Exorcist if they like. I haven't watched it yet, but I'm excited to. I finally got my DVDs or Blu-rays rather from Italy for the Hotel Inferno trilogy, which I'm looking forward to checking that out. That's by the same company that put out Adam Chaplin. I've been over the moon with them since I discovered Adam Chaplin. And, one of their other movies that I have watched that they put out was called Tater City, which was just bonkers.
I
So I
love the
wanted to
name.
check it out. Yeah, Tater City. It's a dystopian movie about society has decided that cannibalism is totally cool. And
Okay.
it's just, yeah, it looks like it was made for $12.50, but it had a lot of heart and just some of the most like gnarly gore that you've ever seen. It's just
All right.
relentless. So, as soon as I discovered Necrostorm, the thing about them is that you can't just get their movies easily. I had to wait for my movies to come through customs. It's a big, long pain in the ass. So
Yeah.
hopefully it's worth it.
Oh, I'm sure it will be. I mean, it's only gotten a 1% rating on Rotten Tomatoes and 2-star rating on IMDb, so it should be
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, I'm sure. I know this is the kind of stuff I seek out. Like, ooh, it looks like the Guar guys made this. This will be a fun thing to endure. Let's watch this. Pay
Well, I mean, judging
money
from
for
I haven't seen Adam Chapman just yet, but from your description in the theatrical trailer, the Hotel Inferno's got to be on that level too.
it.
I
Yeah,
haven't seen the Inferno. Yeah.
it looks like a first person. Basically, all three of them are first person shooter movies. So
Okay.
if you like Doom, it's like that, but in a movie. So we'll see. It's probably going to be pretty damn bad, but bad is subjective.
Yeah, bad is totally subjective. And speaking of bad, I was at the in Ontario, California. They had a horror convention. They called it
Cool.
Creep IE because IE stands for Inland Empire in Southern California. So it's Creep IE or Creepy Con.
Ah, clever.
Yeah, very clever, very clever. So we had tickets to go to Sunday. There's 2 days, Saturday and Sunday, and the first time we went to this convention was back in February, and it was packed to the gills on
Oh,
Sunday.
cool.
That it was just like line around around the arena. It was the convention center, just to get in.
Yeah.
And so we were kind of anticipating, kind of pumping ourselves up that we're gonna have to go through the same kind of waiting period. And then when we drove to the convention center, there's no line wrapped around the
Really?
block. There's plenty of parking available. And, then you start getting suspicious. Like, hey, what's going on now? Is it
It's gonna
closed?
suck all of a
Yeah,
sudden?
is it going to suck all of a sudden? But no, it still had some great celebs there. It had uh, something McBraid from, from The Boys. He played the nerdy dude who got his girlfriend blown up in the first episode.
Yeah, she gets just atomized by a
Yeah.
bus.
No, by the guy who runs really fast or whatever.
Oh yeah, A Train.
Yeah, A Train
A
just runs
Train
right through her.
splatters her.
He's just left there standing her holding her arms. It was pretty brutal.
Oh yeah.
Who else was there? The uh, several other people that you would recognize.
Yeah.
Rose McGowan, Jenna Elfman was there. I assume she must be doing a horror movie or something. But it was unusual to see Jenna Elfman there because I'm used to seeing her in like comedies, like
Yeah.
Darman Greg or something. And yeah, so all these kind of random stuff. We didn't get to meet anybody because they want to cash to for an autograph and stuff. And we stay away from that hard cash around there. So we
Yeah,
just
I understand. Like I have in the past, and I don't really regret it, especially when it comes to Jeffrey Combs. I paid for a autograph from him. God knows where it is. I think I immediately must have thrown it to the Atlanta wind. It was at Dragon Con one year, and I might have mentioned it before. Jeffrey Combs was the nicest, coolest dude, and
yeah
it's so fun when that's the case because it's like, man, it would have been disappointing if you were kind of a pretentious a hole and I
yeah
ended up not liking you because if you're a horror fan and you don't like Jeffrey Combs, then you're probably not a horror fan.
yeah for sure. That'd be a great moment to meet him. I was kind of regretting a little bit not going and drawing out some cash from the old ATM to meet, Jack Quaid is the person I'm thinking of from The Boys.
Oh yeah.
Because I really enjoy his humor, and he's on like one of my favorite podcasts, Comedy Bang Bang. So, or he has been on there a couple of times, and he's always pretty funny to listen to. So, just see him. I was going to fanboy, but he actually had a really long line compared to some of the other celebrities. So I was like, who needs it?
It's weird. Well, I'll go to Dragon Con and the same people. Hell, like last time when I went there, it's been several years now. The actor you were just mentioning was there sitting right next to Carl Urban. Is that his name? Judge Dredd himself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, wow. And I treat them like giraffes at the zoo. Like that beautiful, beautiful creature over there. Let's keep it moving. Like it's got to be a real specific person before I'm going to stand in line. And I don't know. It's weird. I just don't like that interaction. Sometimes it makes it's I think it's inherently this moment where you are more worthy than I am. You have more value than I do. And I am here to pay money for the privilege of talking to you. And I don't like that. I don't like that kind of interaction for some reason.
Yeah, it is a weird interaction, and I've always felt uncomfortable approaching celebrities like that. And I've seen quite a few, not just at horror conventions, but out in the wild as well, where you see them and they know they see you, but just to keep them, just say, I don't even say anything. I just kind of like, oh, that's so and so from that show, and I don't approach them because I know they just want to be out and have a regular time and not be accosted and. I've seen them. I remember that show, The League.
Yeah.
Well, the whole cast from The League was at this bar that we were at several years ago, and Nick Kroll and all these guys, Jason Mantzoukas, and they were having a good time and partying. And some people would come up to them and say, "Hey, can we get a picture with you?" And they would turn them down and says, if we have to get a picture to you, we're gonna have to give a picture to everyone. And there's a lot of people in the bar, so they didn't want to have to deal with it. So
yeah,
and I could understand it. And the fan walked away dejected, but I was like, I kind of get it.
It's weird. Celebrity is one of those things. It seems like in a small way, it's a little bit of a curse once it happens, and it's something that entertainers strive for. But I think that's the beauty of podcasting is that no one really cares.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just staying on just a little bit on subject is that I remember going to, Chris Elliott, right?
Yeah.
So Chris Elliott, I've been a fan of Chris Elliott since he was on the David Letterman show, and since he had Get a Life and his movies that he's done. I always thought his humor was really irreverent and eccentric and odd, and it always kind of felt in mood with my kind of. So I've always been a fan of him. And then around 2013, 2012, remember that show Eagle Heart that used to be out.
Not really.
It was just like a short thing I think it was on Adult Swim, where it was like 10 or 15-minute show. It was just pure weird ass comedy from Chris Elliott.
Yeah, it's probably in line with those other weirdos that are on that. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
And they had a screening of like the second season at this small movie theater in LA. So I went by myself, and I went there, and I had like my copy of Cabin Boy on DVD. I was like, on the off chance that I do get a chance to meet him, I'm just going to, ask him for his autograph. So we go through the whole thing, and everyone's getting up and leave. And Chris is just kind of standing there with his phone and just looking at his phone, and no one is around him. No one's coming up to talk to him. I don't know if he even has the handlers at that point. And so I was just like walked up, and I had my copy and say, "Hey, Chris, I'm a huge fan. Could I get your autograph on my DVD?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, sure." And he's like, "What's your name?" And I was like, "Jason." He's like, "Jason, these pipes are clean on the DVD." Cool. I was like, and it was like starstruck. I was like, "Oh, thank you so much." And I thanked him for his work. And he was like, "Well, thank you for being a fan." And just the nicest person. And, of course, I wasn't punishing him with questions about everything that he did. I just got the autograph, said hello, and then left.
Yeah, I mean, and it's weird. It's like I don't think you have to be in the entertainment game, even on the low level, for too long before you have at least one creepy fan. And so,
hey, what are you doing? You're not calling me that, are you?
No. What I'm saying is that you don't want to be that. Like that's like that. I think that's probably why. It's like, oh, I don't want to be like person X over here who I've had to get a restraining order against.
Yeah, we would call them out in the wild when we go play shows or something, and people would be punishers. We call them punishers. They would just want to know all the story behind recording things, or
Oh,
if we had like a famous guitarist kind of playing on an album or something, they would ask us all about questions about that guitarist, and just like I don't want to talk about this anymore. But
well, yeah, and if you're like, oh man, I don't really want to, that's a you fucking
oh yeah, then you're a
asshole.
dick. Yeah, that's how it works.
Well, did you get any cool merch? That's the reason to go to those things.
I did. I got some cool shirts from Paul Bearer Press, which is a really great. I
Oh yeah,
free promotion on them, but the guy has some great artwork, and I bought a shirt specifically from them. Several shirts, several prints from artists, from original prints that we bought that
cool.
they drew on. So we bought some from authentic art, which is always nice. And yeah, just an overall really good time. We actually spent longer there this this weekend than we did the first weekend, just because there wasn't so many people that you're rubbing and bumping elbows into,
Yeah,
that you could just kind of like freely now walk around. Not to say
that's
there weren't a
cool.
lot of people there. There were a lot of people, but just not jammed up like sardines. So
Oh, that sounds cool, man. I mean,
yeah.
yeah, that sounds like some of the stuff that I need to start kind of poking around into more and more, especially now that we're getting deeper into the podcast horror world.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, let's take a pivot back, and
Sure.
let's talk about Viking Wolf just briefly.
Briefly,
Briefly.
yeah. English is more harder. Yeah, Viking Wolf, 2022 is a Norwegian horror thriller directed by Stig Svensson and starring Liv. I'm not
Hmm.
good at these Ouija names. Sorry.
Ouija
Uh,
names.
yeah. Ellie Mueller Osborne, author, such and such. A lot of people in this movie. Anyway, it's a Norwegian uh, not a vampire, but a werewolf. Yeah, it's very hard to remember the iconic horror movies monsters, but it's a werewolf movie in the Norwegian style, and it was under your recommendation because you had watched it. Well, I wanted to get what's your take on it, and I'll give you mine.
Well, when I say recommendation, it
Well,
sounds like that
more
I'm
of a
actually,
fact.
yeah, more of a fact that I watched this movie. Maybe you should check it out too. Just maybe we're probably on the same page with it. I think it was filmed fine. I think the sound design was great. It suffered from a horrific CGI wolf.
Yeah,
There were parts where there were some actual practical effects used, which was cool to see that. But it fell way short of the mark that I thought it was going to be. That it started off as a slow burn, and it was a slow burn pretty much up until the last 10 minutes or so.
yeah. Have you noticed that those? I don't know if it was specifically made for Netflix, but a lot of horror movies that have been made recently, especially the ones that you see on Netflix, they look like they were filmed by the exact same crew with the
Mm.
exact same post production approach, the same like color cues, the same framing, and oh my
It's
god,
almost like AI is doing all the post production or something. Maybe they put in a bunch of
maybe.
AI into
Yeah,
there.
yeah, Norwegian horror movie. It's like, okay, your color palette is a dark, saturated brown and some reds and some blues to
Yeah.
offset it. You know, cool down those shadows. These modern horror movies are killing me with the establishing shots. It's like I know that it takes place in a building and that people live in a town. Did you show me that town one more friggin' time? I'm going to lose my mind. I know where we are. It was just they were killing me with the establishing shots, and it it ripped off other horror movies, other
Oh
werewolf
yeah.
movies, and that did it vastly better. Like watching it just made me want to watch better werewolf movies,
Yeah.
like Ginger Snaps, or Dog Soldiers, or The Howling, or Silver Bullet, or American
Yeah.
Werewolf in London, or Company of Wolves, or Teen
It's like,
Wolf.
and you know what? And it's the werewolf movies that pull that off, where you know who the wolf is, you know what's going to happen. Like American Werewolf in London, you just follow this guy's journey until he finally turns into a wolf. But the way the story was told and everything that happened in between was done with a lot of entertaining pieces, And then you see this movie has some similarities to American Werewolf in London. I
Yeah.
was just really kind of like, I haven't seen a werewolf movie where it gives that impression of mysteriousness to it.
Yeah.
Like I thought at the very beginning, there's a werewolf running around in the backwoods of Norway. Who is it? You know, is it this guy who's disguised as a werewolf that's ravaging the village, and who are they going to discover? And it you don't get that information. I guess in this culture or this whatever we're doing with this werewolf theory is that once you change into a werewolf, you're an animal and you can't go back. That's how it
Yeah.
is. So I was hoping for some mystery like in Silver Bullet. That's Silver Bullet was amazing with who's the werewolf, and then we see the big reveal of who it is. Not a werewolf, but you know the sign who it is. You're like, oh, I can't believe
Yeah.
that was a werewolf. You know, and it just lacked that mystery that the main werewolf's dead. You don't see it change into a human. You don't see it do anything, and then this girl's going to eventually change into a werewolf, and then it just becomes plotty and boring after that.
Oh, it was leading up to that, and then through it. Like if you're gonna have, it's a monster movie that was typical in the way that a lot of monster movies are, is that there was a shameful deficit of monster. Like
Yeah.
the CG, it's one of those films where you kind of have to just be like, all right, there's going to be a CGI werewolf. You see a CGI werewolf right from the beginning. The actual titular Vikings have it under their arm. Like,
Oh
we're going
yeah.
to bring this thing back to the mainland, and it's just, it's just fucking so monstery. Like, if you put that snarling demon on the boat, I'm going to hack your head off. But we're not bringing that to the mainland. So, but it's okay. So a movie like that is bolstered by dependent on the human characters. Like in Silver Bullet, you have Corey Haim, and in American Werewolf in London, you have whoever that actor is. I forget his name, but it's
Yeah.
just an all-star cast. And you're brought through it. The werewolf is almost a plot device more than it's the thing. And the characters are so droll in this. None of their motivations make sense, and they're
Yeah.
just they're not memorable. And I'm not going off on some kind of like male rant here, this typical like misogynist rant, but every male character in this film is so pitifully weak. Like the male cop is like about to throw up every time he sees a body, and the female sheriff is like, get out of my way, I'm gonna get elbow deep into the gore, right? Like she's the only one that's got
You know
any.
it's it's weird that I don't remember any specific male characters in the movie off the top of my head. I knew who you were talking about now, but I
Yeah.
know that when the sheriff took off to go look for the wolf, and they left like a bunch of disposable hunters around to get
Oh, those
chopped.
guys.
But they just they didn't show anything, so all you see is
No.
like the wolf doing stuff and not really attacking these guys. And another weird point they made in the movie, and I don't know if you caught this, but she said she was from Sweden. Like her and her daughter were from Sweden, and I'm like, what does that have to do with anything? Why did you say you're from Sweden? Unless you're a Norwegian watching the film and you're like, hey, that's not a real Norwegian accent, you know?
It's like, hey, we're Americans watching this. It's all the same place.
It's all the same to us.
both of you are represented in Death Clock. Like we were sitting there watching it, and Carrie was like, "Is this Switzerland?" I'm like, "No, you're thinking Squizgar. Think Toki." So, it's more of a Toki film. Yeah.
I know this is another one of those kind of like Leave, where is this
Yeah.
the confusion of who are these people and where are they from? It's not like their ethnicities really have any meaning, but it's I don't know. I thought they were German at first. I thought it was a German movie at first. For
It
fuck's
might as
sake.
well have been as just stoic as they were. My God, it was a missed opportunity. It's a movie that could have focused on the obvious thing, and it's been done a million times. But the obvious thing is, okay, it's a teenage girl. She's awkward and has all the teenage girl problems, and she's becoming a werewolf. That's a perfect analogy for this change of life that we all go through. It's right there in front of you. We're not even going to do anything with it.
No, I
Not
mean,
that good.
yeah, they had some okay actual practical effects during her official change.
It wasn't bad. That's where it redeemed itself a bit when it werewolfed out.
Yeah, and then I was like, okay, that's cool. At least they didn't show this whole CGI transformic change or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was disappointed because I love my classic horror monster movies.
Yeah, me too.
Vampires and werewolves. I'm hoping if we're a good mummy movie, maybe one of these days that doesn't involve Tom Cruise. But
It'd be nice, but they've managed to screw it up every
yeah,
time. And I like the actors that are in those ones. Everybody loves those Brandon Fraser mummy movies. I don't get it, man. I think that they're goofy as hell.
I thought maybe I saw the first one and then I was like, I don't think I even saw 2 or 3, the next two.
Same
So
movie. It's
yeah,
just, even for the time, even when they came out, they were goofy and cartoony looking and wacky. It was like Scooby Doo or something.
yeah, I want to see like a serious gritty version of the Mummy, not the CGI over the top action packed thing that Cruise or even Fraser put out years ago. And they kind of did that with the Wolfman with Benicio del Toro,
Yeah.
which was, I thought it was an okay film that was kind of true to the original material in a way. It was a lot better than Wolf with Jack Nicholson.
Oh God, yeah. They figured we got Jack Nicholson. Just jut your lower jaw out, Jack, and act all Jack Nicholson-y, and that's all we need.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm looking forward to, if anyone has any like good recommendations on werewolf films, because like I said, I love the classic monsters, and I've seen a couple like tongue-in-cheek comedy werewolf films like Wolf Cop, which was highly enjoyable, but
It was.
it's not a gritty silver bullet kind of thing. I don't know. It's weird.
Well, I feel like we're spoiled because we came up during the time of, like A Company of Wolves was a relevant film when we were young. The Howling was out. That we had some really good, and then later on, Dog Soldiers was a pretty damn good werewolf movie.
That was amazing. Yeah. Yeah, that was like really kind of the last werewolf movie I can think off the top of my head that really blew me away.
Yeah, it was really good. The werewolf designs were killer. Like there's a lot of action. I don't know. It's, we're definitely. We're not to change gears too violently, but we're getting towards the end of hopefully the end of the writer's strike. So hopefully we're going to see some more opportunities to be disappointed in the theaters to come out and see a lot more mediocre movies coming out.
Well, fingers crossed those writers have been, patiently at their desks, getting all their creativity out, and we'll see something come out in the next couple of years. That's
hope so.
A creative infusion, I should say, of horror. Be very nice. But I think, do you have anything else you want to talk about as far as?
Not offhand. I need to start watching movies so we have more fodder for the podcast. But like you said, by all means, if you're watching this and you're enjoying it, like, not only leave us a like, which we really appreciate, but throw us some recommendations for horror movies. Tell us what you watched, hated, and want us to suffer for because you did, loved, and want us to talk about it here on the podcast. Talk to us. Give us some interaction.
Yeah, it'd be great. So yeah, I guess that's about it. We still haven't come up with a fancy outro where we have a catchphrase. So let's just
our old catchphrase was life is pain and so are bad horror movies.
We gotta brainstorm something catchier like goobity goobity goo. Don't do. I can't do it. I can't do it. I gotta. Yeah, don't spew. I don't think that one's gonna stick either. We'll keep shopping this. All right.
Movies do.
Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Bits and Chunks.
Right. Thanks, y'all.